Well, if we looked at the Midwest as a different representation at a big global level, at a big macro level than the South, I mean, there's a difference between the theoretical applicability of this gestalt, this whole approach to interface, because it's endless. You could relate it to any subject matter, any approach between people, and this particular piece of technology's ability to do what you've described. So theoretically or in principle, there's no reason not. In terms of how is it that this particular piece of technology will evolve from a priority standpoint in order to be able to survive and grow in the market and all of the rest of it, whether that's an early priority is probably unlikely. It'll be much more in case of being driven by some of the content suppliers of the day for a while, and then growing into a mode of using very much the constructionist paradigm of the way that this will grow in the future, I think, representationally will be that classes will be given classes. The groups, whatever we want to call it in the future, groups of learners will have the capacity to take something that's been done so far, like the central thread in the scientific version, going through some subject matter. Maybe it's something to do with history or, and they will be charged to develop a representation of the beauty of the discovery of DNA, right? So the beauty side won't exist at this point, or the human drama side won't exist. So they'll travel through what does exist, use that as a leverage, go off into other resources, and create materials which becomes the beauty thread that falls back into the system so that it can continue to grow.
It's interesting that you said the students would do that. I can envision the way the mind and the educational system works today, the teachers would be creating the plan that for the students to start with. If it's that user-friendly, they can go in there and access that information loaded for the students coming into the class.
Yeah. I don't mean to exclude anybody. Certainly the teachers could, as when we get into the authoring system, there are ways in which that somebody who professionally creates material will be able to pass information on to the teacher, kind of parallel but invisible, right, in the way that the structure works. There will be ways in which the teacher could add personal things around these spheres so that when her class goes through it, not only are all the standard stuff that's out there in the world, but things that she would like to have added to it all fall right into the same structure. So the design is such to, again, the different thing about all this isn't its information dexterities in the purely mechanical sense. It's the way it deals with different classes of meaning needs, and the fact that it pivots on that rather than on arbitrary structural relationships in the outside world of knowledge. That's the real key point to differentiate what we're doing technologically. Actually, how much time do I have? I don't have a lot of time to spend on the authoring. So do you want to take a break now, or you want me to just keep going and I'll be out, get out in like 20 minutes? Okay. Okay. I don't have time to go into the authoring system at any great length. The authoring system, like the interface, has the ability for me to deal with an outline for a course, to bring in different tools to create representations, to quickly provide ways for myself as an author and the system as a whole to provide references. And I'm going to be real short. I'm sorry I can't go into this at the length. I'll try to give you a couple of examples. To make attributions about what things mean in very fast-ordered ways, like to say, this is the personalities, or here's the key points or the central ideas, to make these adjustments. I'll make one small tangent jump because I'm here, for those that are technologists, today the cutting edge of software programming is talked about as object-oriented, and there's a big thing about it. What we're about is attribute-oriented, common implication of attributes processing. So we process things according to all our attributes, and then translate that into objects, which is a critical part of the system efficiency. There's a particular structure, which I'm not going to have a chance to go into right now, which deals with how all of these pieces get correlated and fused into an entirely different kind of data structure. And it's this data structure, this meaning module, which is a real critical part of the way this whole system works from a standpoint of efficiency. All of this is invisible, how this turns into links, so that the way the learner interface works, it keeps the learner centered in this bubble, which allows the learner to quickly declare through the compass and through these things what they want to see, which are all got tags that are correlated in the geometry of this new kind of file, which is neither a serial linear file nor is it a large database. It's an entirely different structure that's modeled after the principles we've been talking about. But we're not going to have time to go into too much of this. What am I doing? I can't see my buttons. There we go. So back to the real authoring system now.
David?
Yeah.
Do you mean in that last thing, you used a tremendous amount of statistics that it would be possible to learn the system to take the implications of those statistics and put together something comprehensive?
I'm sorry, Lewis, I didn't follow your question.
There's a lot of statistics, okay? And this system would have the ability to take different meanings to those statistics.
No. What I meant by the attribute processing is that every time an author, let's say I just finished writing this piece here, which is that piece that I had running up a little while ago about my son. Anytime I get done, I create something like this, I can tell it where I want it to put it. I can say, put this in the scientific mode, in the metaphoric mode, I can put this in a different language. I can send this to the teacher as a special instruction, right? I can do a number of different things with it at that level. And once I get into that, this kind of ballpark, let's say I want to put it here, I can say, this is in relationship. This has to do with the relationships, so we'll call it relationships. Now, what I've done is, with this piece of text here, and it could be a picture or a sound or something, is I've quickly told the system, by just making those adjustments, that it's conductive and it deals with relationships. Now I can jump down and say, it also has moderate amount of text, images, not that much sound. This particular piece isn't that interactive. Its content is actual rather than links to the rest of the universe. It's fairly concise. Context focus macro. It's not very difficult, but it's very significant. Now, when I did that, the system kept track of. It creates a new kind of word, right? That is like a summary of all the meaning attributes of this thing I've just done. And that becomes a basis as we start to fill up with material for the learner interface to tune into what's grossly relevant, right? Because it's actually tuning into what works mathematically at an attribute level before it's providing choices for the learner to then differentiate what really works. So it's attribute-oriented, object-based processing. Okay. That's kind of complex. I don't usually go into that very much, at this level. But so let's say I can write things and make attributions like this. I can then let's look at the scripting. Actually, let me go back. Load something up.